You wake up tired, not physically, mentally exhausted from fighting yourself every single day. You say you want discipline, but your emotions still control your decisions. You say you want respect, but you still explain yourself too much. You say you want power, but your mind collapses the moment life becomes uncomfortable. Most men are not destroyed by failure. They are destroyed by inconsistency. 1 day focused, 3 days distracted. 1 moment ambitious, the next moment emotionally weak. And the world notices. People may never say it directly, but they can feel when a man lacks internal control. Because discipline is not about productivity, it is about psychological stability. Machiavelli understood something dangerous about human nature. The disciplined man becomes unpredictable to weak minds. Because he cannot be manipulated through comfort. He cannot be distracted through emotion. He cannot be controlled through validation. And that terrifies people. Not because discipline is loud, but because true discipline removes emotional dependency. Most people need pleasure to function, need motivation to move, need approval to continue. But the disciplined man moves regardless of emotion. And that level of control feels unnatural in a society addicted to impulse. The modern world trains men to obey feelings. Machiavelli would have called this weakness disguised as freedom. Because a man who only acts when he feels ready will spend his life under the control of temporary emotions. Discipline begins the moment excuses lose authority, the moment you stop negotiating with your moods, the moment you stop asking yourself whether you feel like doing something. Weak minds worship comfort. Strategic minds worship control. And control is built through repetition under resistance, not motivation. Emotion is emotional. Discipline is identity. That is why most men fail. They try to feel disciplined before acting disciplined. But disciplined men act first. Emotion follows later. The dangerous part is that discipline changes social perception. People trust emotionally controlled men more, fear them more, respect them more. Not because they speak loudly, but because they radiate restraint. A man who controls himself appears harder to manipulate, and humans instinctively calculate risk in social interactions. The emotionally impulsive man feels predictable. The disciplined man feels difficult to read. That creates silent psychological power. Notice how most people expose themselves constantly. Oversharing emotions, oversharing plans, oversharing reactions. Modern society rewards visibility, but power often grows in silence. Machiavelli understood that restraint creates mystery, and mystery creates psychological weight. The disciplined man does not react instantly, does not chase attention, does not seek emotional approval from every room he enters. His calm becomes intimidating, because most people are internally chaotic, and chaos fears structure. This is why disciplined men often trigger insecurity in others. Not intentionally, but their presence exposes emotional instability around them. A focused man reminds distracted people of their lack of control. A calm man reminds reactive people of their emotional weakness. A consistent man reminds disciplined people of their excuses. And human beings naturally resist mirrors that reveal uncomfortable truths. This is why becoming disciplined may temporarily isolate you. Some people only like you when you are easy to influence, easy to distract, easy to emotionally pull down. The moment your standards rise, certain relationships become uncomfortable. Not because you changed into someone cruel, but because discipline changes energy. You stop tolerating pointless conversations. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing constant stimulation. And many people interpret emotional independence as arrogance. Machiavelli warned that power changes social dynamics. Not everyone celebrates your evolution. Some people benefit from your confusion. A distracted man is easier to influence. An emotionally unstable man is easier to control. But discipline reduces emotional access. You become more selective with attention. More calculated with energy, more aware of manipulation. And awareness alone changes how people interact with you. The truth is, most men are not lacking intelligence. They are lacking command over themselves. They know what must be done, but knowledge without execution creates frustration. Every broken promise to yourself weakens self-respect. Every delay teaches your mind that your words have no authority. And eventually, you stop trusting yourself. That is the hidden damage of indiscipline. Not failure, internal betrayal. Discipline rebuilds self-trust. Every difficult action completed without emotional negotiation strengthens identity. You begin seeing yourself differently, not as someone trying to become disciplined, but as someone who no longer depends on mood to function. That psychological shift changes everything, because identity controls behavior more than motivation ever will. Machiavelli believed perception shapes power, and disciplined behavior silently reshapes perception. People observe consistency, even when they say nothing. They notice who stays calm under pressure, who disappears to work quietly, who controls impulses, who speaks less but executes more. Most men talk themselves into weakness. The disciplined man trains himself into silence. And silence creates force, especially in a world addicted to noise. But discipline is not about becoming emotionless. It is about refusing to become emotionally ruled. There's a difference. Emotion itself is not weakness. Lack of control is. The modern world encourages impulsive emotion because impulsive people are easier to influence, easier to distract, easier to sell to, easier to manipulate socially. But discipline creates resistance against psychological manipulation. You become less reactive to praise, less emotional toward criticism, less desperate for immediate pleasure. And that creates something rare: internal authority, the ability to lead yourself without external pressure. Most people never develop this because self-control is painful. It requires sacrificing temporary comfort for long-term identity. It requires doing difficult things without applause, without recognition, without immediate reward. That is why discipline feels lonely at first. But eventually, it becomes freedom. Because the disciplined man no longer depends on external conditions to maintain direction. Rain or pressure, stress or boredom, failure or success. He continues. And consistency itself becomes intimidating. Not through aggression, through stability. Machiavelli understood that true strength often appears cold from the outside, because emotionally controlled people do not constantly perform emotion for social acceptance. They move with intention, quietly, strategically, without needing everyone to understand them. And in modern society, that level of self-control feels almost dangerous, because most people have lost the ability to command themselves. So if you want discipline, stop romanticizing it. Discipline is not aesthetic, not motivational quotes, not temporary bursts of ambition. It is repetition under discomfort, again and again and again, until your mind stops resisting structure, until your actions stop depending on emotion, until your standards become stronger than your impulses. Because once that happens, people feel something different around you. Not loud dominance, not forced confidence. Something colder, more controlled, more difficult to manipulate. And that silent control changes everything.
The moment a man fully controls himself, he becomes psychologically difficult to stop. If this video exposed something most men refuse to admit, subscribe now. Because the modern world trains emotional weakness every single day, and very few men are learning how to think strategically anymore. Subscribe and become harder to manipulate.